hello, everyone. Welcome. This is our first opportunity to be able to connect with you. Our goal today is to help us celebrate Black Philanthropy Month. And so I don't know if any of you all were familiar with the fact that August is Black Philanthropy Month, but I had no idea. In fact, I'm really excited to bring Alicia Johnson Perry to the stage. She introduced me to this month's focus by way. We both work for the Gulf Coast Community Foundation. She mentioned it to me, and I was like, "This is just a wonderful idea, a wonderful thing that should be celebrated in regard to just making sure that people are aware of all of the wonderful things that are just happening, within the African American community. And really, this is something that's been going on for the longest. But again, just being able to kind of highlight everyday people who are doing really good things as far as giving and celebrating, because again, a lot of times, um, you know, everyday people somewhat get overlooked. And so again, Alicia, I want you to come on to the stage with me so that we can have a real quick chat real quick before we bring our guests on. And so again, if you've not had the opportunity to connect with Alicia Johnson Terry, she is I believe that your official title at the Gulf Coast Community Foundation is that I think you're marketing director.
Is one of my
She
one of my
wears hats.
my official title is Director of Donor Programs, and of course, it does involve some donor outreach, which are prospect donor outreach, which we think of as marketing. But my main goal is to help to nurture the relationships with the donors that we have, with the hopes that we will maintain their support and also engage new donors in ways to give to the community and to support all of the many issues that face our Gulf Coast region.
Okay, very good, very good, very good. So, as I mentioned earlier, so she just happened to mention Black Philanthropy Month to me, and it really kind of explained the heart of it and what's happening over in New Orleans, and really what's really happening all over the nation. It is a global movement, not just in America, but it's worldwide. And so, again, I just feel like, as an African American, I feel like we're known for a lot of the negative things that are happening, but there's some really good things that are happening. So I love the fact that we have an opportunity to really kind of put a spotlight on the good that's happening. And so Alicia is going to bring some friends to the stage, and so I'm going to hand the meeting over to you, and look forward to just kind of hearing the stories that our guests today are going to share. So again, Alicia Johnson Perry, you.
Wonderful. Can you hear me pretty well? I'll keep talking until I'm told otherwise. So I was excited as I had a chance to speak more with Tiffany about our vision for introducing this concept to many of us in the community. I, as a professional fundraiser, and I've been in the philanthropy and fundraising arena for over 15 years, only recently learned about Black Philanthropy Month, and it meant much to me because for so often, for so long, I've often felt like I was working in a silo. The field is predominantly white, and predominantly of a higher economic status than I grew up, familiar with. And so coming into this work, which I know, God, Providence, the universe, I know opened this opportunity for me to be in a role to be able to help move money through our community and into our community through grants and grant writing and events management and donor relationship management. But because I am one of the few African Americans in this field, often I feel like I'm working alone and don't see many people that look like me. And so when I realized that people all over the world are celebrating not only the fact that the African American community has been of great support to ourselves, among ourselves for as long as history exists, but also that there are practitioners like fundraising practitioners who are looking for community to support each other in our professional development. I was just so excited. I don't want to, I'm sure I'll get to talk to you a little bit more about my own personal experience and interaction with this particular celebration. But I want to thank and celebrate the first guest that we will have on, Dr. Alice Graham. I met her at an event at this wonderful business and professional women's event on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. She's the guest of Karen Sock, and also in the same space with our second guest that we'll meet later on. And so we're all in this beautiful space where we're celebrating professional and business women. And I had a chance to mention to Dr. Graham the conversation that Tiffany and I were having around celebrating Black philanthropy and Black giving. And she immediately, it seemed that it immediately resonated with her. And it gave me a lot of energy to continue to work with Tiffany on trying to bring this topic and help people be aware. So I'll just give you a little bit of background on Dr. Alice Graham. She's an ordained minister in the American Baptist Church. She holds a BA from Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, an MDiv from Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evanston, Illinois, and a PhD from Northwestern University in pastoral psychology and counseling, also in Evanston, Illinois. She's a retired fellow from the American Association of Pastoral Counselors. She has over 30 years been a pastoral counselor, co-founding the Pastoral Ministries Institute, serving as a professor at numerous colleges and universities, and then found her way to the Gulf Coast in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, where she moved here and served in Gulfport, Mississippi as the executive director of Interfaith Partnerships, and then found her way into this really amazing space where she was able to make a huge impact with Back Bay Mission. And I hope she'll tell us a little bit more about that work in Biloxi, Mississippi. And so what she wants you to know about her from her bio is that at the end of the day, she is a facilitator who is helping individuals in their second half of life address the questions of meaning and purpose. Once people have achieved stability and success, we often start, and I say we because I think I'm in the second half of life now. We start asking different questions than we did earlier. And so she works with people to explore, what is their soul's mission and purpose. And she wants people to know that we need to follow our soul because it knows the way. And I really appreciate that because my soul was saying that we need to celebrate Black giving in the community, and we are, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to follow what I know is what is the right thing for us to do. So with that, let's bring on Dr. Alice Graham, and we'll hear from her about just all the things, but particularly I'm curious when the topic was introduced to you, you so immediately brought positivity and energy that, I know that you're already a positive and energetic person, but I was particularly interested in what resonated with you about this topic.
Well, as you indicated, the last 12 years I've been involved in nonprofit work. And that meant, as being the executive director of those two nonprofits, I had to raise money. And translating the mission so that people would translating the mission of each of those organizations so that people would experience how that impacted the overall quality of life for the community was very, very important. And I had to develop a whole language set to make that, to help, particularly in the Black community, not because they weren't used to giving, But there is the assumption that nonprofit organizations get money from governmental entities, and that just is not true. Yes, we do get some grant funding and that kind of thing, but the funding that really makes the most difference is the funding that comes from the community, the funding that comes from people who believe in the mission of the nonprofit. And I want to step back. I grew up in a household that had very few resources. I grew up in Chicago, and it was critical from my mother's point of view that we learned how to give back, even from the little bit we had. And her baseline was that if we got an allowance, we had to give 10% in offering.
Yes.
I grew up in the Catholic Church. I did not know that that was a biblical mandate. I just understood it as my mother's mandate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were in the Catholic Church. We were expected to give to the church in whatever way we could, and sometimes to pay for our tuition. My brothers and I would sweep the floors in the church. And my mother just said, that's what you do. You're getting something, you're going to give back. And so that's always been an understanding that I have had, that I'm in this world to give back. Marian Wright Edelman, the executive director of the former executive director of the Children's Defense League, once said that charity is what you pay for the air that you breathe. I may be paraphrasing that. But when I was in finished college and I heard that statement, first of all, she was a Spelman sister, but that statement resonated with me, and it connected with what I'd learned as a child growing up. And so from that point on, I looked for organizations. First of all, it was the church. You give 10% to the church, but that was just your baseline. Then what else do you want to see grow and develop in the community? Or what else do you want to put your support to? So I began to look around for the kinds of organizations that I wanted to support. And that is a part of my faith commitment. Each year I begin to decide at the beginning of the year, what are going to be my commitments? Where am I going to put my financial, quote, excess? And usually it's children, hunger issues. And at Back Bay Mission, I really learned a lot more about how people end up homeless, without resources. And so now I've added Back Bay Mission to my ongoing commitments. But I think it's important to realize that Black folks have always given. I was ordained initially in the AME Church, and the church began with societies, social aid societies, that because of the impact of racism, these societies provided care for the community when government could not in any way be relied upon to provide care. So giving has always been a part of the story in the Black community. What is different is that we have not understood it as philanthropy.
Right.
Philanthropy is what rich people do. Giving is what poor people do. And when you said something to me and you were talking about philanthropy, immediately that was the connection I made.
Right.
That um, Black folks have always been philanthropists.
Yes.
We called it giving. We called it helping our neighbor. We called it tithing at the church. We called it making sure that the kids on the street got fed.
Yes.
We gave. And I think we need to lift that up. And I think this work that you're doing is going to help do that. And one of the things I never thought I would be doing, I learned about planned giving at Back Bay Mission.
Mm.
And so now, planned giving, I've got an insurance policy where the proceeds will go to 3 agencies, 3 organizations that are important for me. That's philanthropy.
That is. Yeah. I appreciate you lifting that up. You know, I'm new to the Community Foundation, and after, you know, my entire 15 years in fundraising has been always on the grant seeking side, you know, just always asking for money, writing grants for money, you know, creating special events for money, you know, et cetera, just always asking for money, and not really thinking about all of the different vehicles and ways that money gets to our, you know, grant seeking organizations. And so being on the other side now, working at the Community Foundation, now I understand what a donor advised fund is. Even though I had received, you know, we had been on the receiving end of donor advised funds, I didn't exactly know what that was, you know, and so now it's making me to start thinking about new ways to give, you know, as I, you know, am getting into that generation where, you know, I've saved up a little bit of money, I've paid off, you know, some bigger bills that were
Your
struggle when
student
I was
loans.
student loans, you know, just coming out of college, and, you know, and not
Yeah.
really being able to participate in the economy for feels like decades, you know. And so finally, you know, and now I'm thinking more creatively. So I appreciate you saying that, because of course cash giving is so important, but I think we could also talk more and educate ourselves more about so many other ways to give that that will help establish a legacy even beyond our life, you know, our
Yeah.
lifetime.
I think that's really an important extension for us as people of color. That, for instance, learning how to set up a fund, say at a place like Gulf Coast Community Foundation. How could a group of donors create that kind of fund to support something that they really value that's happening in the community? So I think you can position can provide some important education for this community around that. It's going to be slow giving, because the primary source for or target for giving is usually the church, the 10%. But even to get a church to set up a donor advised fund, you know, to get a group of churches to start. So, I think we're in a place now, we have, we have more resources, and learning more about how to make our money work to make a difference in the communities in which we live, I think is really important.
Yes.
So I celebrate you being there. I celebrate the fact that, and I keep moving out of the frame because I'm a mover.
We see you. Yeah.
Okay. I celebrate you being there and what you'll be able to do in this community to broaden the frame of reference for giving and philanthropy.
Thank you. Well, let's put a pin in it. We definitely want to bring in our next guest, hear a little bit from her, and then if you don't mind sticking around, maybe we'll have a conversation among the 3 of us to see, you know, how we how things are resonating. But I love and I'm looking forward to hearing more from you, just about your experience and how you are encouraging other people in the community to give in new and different ways. So let's move on over
All
and
right.
invite Dr. Tracy Daniel Hardy. She's the director of technology for Gulfport School District, and she has over 26 years of experience as an educator in various capacities. I'm sure that resonates with you, just the education piece. Dr. Tracy is the chair of the Gulf Coast Housing Initiative, Tech and Learning Advisor, Future Ready Tech Leader Advisor, past president of Mississippi Educational Computing Association, Mississippi Department of Ed Technology Advisory Committee member, Mississippi Ed Tech Leaders Association, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, and the co-chair of the Lighthouse Business and Professional Women. Dr. Tracy is also the author of The Adventures of Butch and Ruby, Chronicles of a Caregiver, March 2022 release. She is the columnist for Caregivers Corner and the Gulf Coast Women magazine, co-author of 2 anthologies, and the forward author for Women Who Lead in Technology, Volume 4. Wonderful curriculum vitae before us. And so please join us and let's talk about what Black philanthropy and Black giving means to you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to be in such good company. Dr. Alice Graham is amazing and said most of what I could even think about saying, but my background regarding giving, not necessarily philanthropy, as she talked about, was just part of our culture and our family and our community and our church. And I don't have an early memory of the first, time something like that has happened, because it always existed. It was expected, with the tithing of the 10%. I remember, BTU lessons and Sunday school lessons, and of course, sermons about, reminding us the importance of tithing. But even more so than that, we were just giving to family, community organizations and institutions that align with our beliefs. And we found that very important. And I remember when going off to Alcorn State University, which is where I got a bachelor's and master's degree, that was a part of the culture there too. You were expected to do that, and subsequently joined some organizations like my sorority that believes in giving and philanthropy and time and talents, and of course of your money. And so that's just a part of who I am, who those around me are, and family, of course, is like, you don't know any other way but to do it. And it seems like my commitments to things and organizations align with that type of philanthropic, gifts. So, when Dr. Graham said, we give and we don't think of it as philanthropy, that resonated with me, because usually when we think of, someone who's being a philanthropist, we think of someone who's given millions of dollars or lots of money to organizations or something. And sometimes, for a tax write-off. But if you really look into, how philanthropy is defined, is the giving of talents, as well as talents and gifts, in-kind donations, as well as money. And so sometimes you find yourself doing all of those in the organizations that you're a part of. And that's just something that, was almost, it was just part of what I was born into it.
Yes. Well, and what struck me when you spoke of just it being a part of our fabric, and we find so many ways to give. I just to kind of flip it a little bit. What do you see as a way that we can also take care of ourselves? Because often we do find ourselves giving in so many different ways. I found myself texting some friends today. It was kind of embarrassing because there are just so many amazing organizations, so many amazing causes, and I want to give to all of them. And if I can't give a whole lot of money, I want to, at least I can help on a board, I'll sit on the board, then I find myself, and then I find myself like, at the end of an evening, deep into the end of an evening, where I'm doing service for this organization and that organization. And I haven't really taken time to really take care of myself and so how do you strike balance? And because we are such givers, where do you find a balance in your generosity?
I completely understand what you mentioned. You leave yourself spent at the end of the day, lacking the energy to just do some things that you need to do for yourself, because you've given so much to all the organizations, given up all your time, efforts, and sometimes even at the end of the month, you're spent because you've given all of your extra to some worthy project. So I have found that I have to be intentional about taking care of myself, and have to be mindful. We just had a session about mindfulness with Ms. Jocelyn Lane on Saturday, and that was really, really good. So you have to be mindful, be intentional about what you're going to do and taking care of yourself. And once you prioritize yourself and your things, you kind of then don't feel bad about saying no to some things. And it's not really saying no, it's just not right now. So you may pick a few things that align perfectly with what you want to do, or a few things that really need your attention or your time, talents, or gifts, and do that. And then the next time you circle around, I think it's really important to support those who, like Dr. Graham mentioned, the children, also those who are around you, who are trying to start something great that really speaks to something that you find dear, and also supporting your friends. Sometimes friends and family, I find that you may not be able to give the time, but you may be able to give $20, or you may be able to give support, and speaking to them about uplifting them about what they're doing, helping to motivate them and encourage them about what they're doing. And then the next time you may be able to give a little bit more, but you have to prioritize yourself and your things so that you're not spent at the end of the day and needing somebody to help take care of you. It is hard to find that balance, but you have to do it because it's so important.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for your reflection. You mentioned that you attended Alcorn State. You mentioned that you're a member of Delta Sigma Theta. These are organizations and institutions that have been around for hundreds of years, and have this demonstrated, as an organization, for example, Delta Sigma Theta, in its own entity, has, demonstrated so much care and thoughtfulness to help bring young people, young girls in particular, into their destinies. And then the Black Greek system as an organization has done so much. Can you tell me how, was there anyone in your family that modeled your wanting to join a sorority, or how did you decide that was the right thing for you?
I think when I attended my first event on campus, and I could see the different Greek letter organizations perform and talk about their mission, I was like, I like what they're doing, and I like what they're talking about. And then when I was able to actually attend a rush to find more out about them, I was sold. After joining, I realized that some of the people that I looked up to, some of the ladies, those that I would call mentors, they were part of the organization. I may not have realized it at the time because I did not have a lot of Greek, I guess, people around me that I knew of. It was never really talked about a whole lot from my memory. And then later I realized, oh, that's why, I'm so connected with these people, because not only they are part of that organization, that I wanted to be a part of, but also they were doing things in the community and they were doing things for people within their organizations where they worked. And it aligned with those things that I valued. And so that made a great impact on not only joining, but staying active in the organization. There's so many things that we are able to do, and you don't have to do them all, but you find committees and subcommittees within the organization that speak to you, and you can do things on a local level and then a national level and international level to help people all around. And so the sorority helps do that and connecting with people who are like-minded. Also, the HBCU background also teaches you about giving back. And even as an active alum of the Alcorn State University National Alumni Association, we practice giving back. We do things, we make sure that we give scholarships to students and that they're able to not only go to college, but if they need anything, whether it's just emotional support, being connected with someone on campus who can help them get through something, if somebody wants to pledge, oftentimes we'll get phone calls or text messages from people saying, I need to do this. Who can I reach out to? And we, try to make that happen as much as possible. But we're also instilling in those individuals the philanthropic or the giving spirit as well, so that they can reach back. And it's a continual thing. Not only that, but, the HBCUs always seem to be underfunded compared to some of the PWIs or larger universities. And so we have to support ourselves to stay relevant, to stay functioning, period. And so we have specific giving days where we're trying to raise a certain amount of money so we can sustain scholarships, so we can sustain programs, and we can add parking and dormitories and things like that. So we're trying to do that as well. And even athletics, we do that. And so doing that, you're able to give on that particular day. Is, sometimes it's Giving Tuesday, sometimes it's like a particular day in December where you're doing that, or the end of the quarter, or right before the end of the year. And then you can designate the fund, the particular area that you want to give to based on, what you think is important, or what you want to give to that particular year, whether it's the band, whether it's to scholarship programs or the football team, or even just something in general in the general fund, and say, use it, discretionary fund, how you want to. Additionally, a lot of other, because of Dr. Graham's leadership with the Back Bay Mission, I've been, able to sit on the Gulf Coast Housing Initiative Board. So we are able to work in the community to try to better, the communities we live in, particularly the community I live in, by giving people an opportunity to become homeowners, or, to teach them about, what do you call it, where we have a lot of blighted properties in our area, and a lot of those exist because families don't know how to handle wills and trusts and things in probate. And so their, organizations like Back Bay Mission could help them if they had the right type of ownership. And a lot of them don't. And because of that, the property goes in disrepair. It makes the neighborhood look awful. And so we're trying to provide education through the Mississippi Center of Justice so that they'll know how to take care of those things ahead of time. So we're offering not just our time and talents, we're bringing other people in to try to help the community as a whole better itself, and then educate those that come after us. We are very, very behind in understanding that stuff in terms of culture. And so we're trying to correct those things by offering. And that's just some of the stuff that I wanted to
so many amazing connections. as you were talking, it reminded me. So this weekend, I had the opportunity to celebrate Black philanthropy with some donors and fundraising professionals in New Orleans, which is my hometown. I'm newly moved to the Gulf Coast, and that's why another reason why I really appreciate.
I thought I heard a New Orleans accent.
Yeah, yeah, and I really appreciate the space. For me as a newcomer, to be able to get to know all the assets and the all the amazing positive images and stories about giving on the Gulf Coast, because it resonates with my own passion and desire to see whatever community I'm in, live to its fullest potential. And so I'm really grateful for that. But I was hanging out with some friends over at the New Orleans Museum of African American Art, and there was one of the leaders, one of the speakers was talking about being shoulder ready. And you've referred to it several times, in the conversation we had about, she reminded us that we stand on the shoulders of giants, of elders who gave when who gave their last, who gave when they didn't feel like they could keep giving, but they kept giving. And they taught us how to give, and they transferred that same spirit. And she challenged us, Dr. Denise Graves challenged us to also put ourselves in a position to be shoulder ready, just as we stood on other shoulders, that we're shoulder ready, where generations after us can stand on our shoulders, and reach their highest potential, and also reach back to help. So I really appreciate
that. Is so important.
I appreciate the reminder that it's not just about paying it forward, but it's also about reaching back so that we can help, not just with our time and our money and our talent, but also what do you call it? Modeling, mentoring and giving more information where we might not have had it. I want to bring, and we can continue the conversation. You look like you're about to say something else, so we'll let you start first, but we'll bring Dr.
Graham. And hey, again, Dr. Graham, I would not be where I am today if it were not for, the philanthropic efforts of mentors, of family, of community, of neighbors. I remember going on school field trips, and one of the teachers said, "Here's a little change," and I'm like, "Who is that from?" And Mrs. Hawthorne sent that, and I'm like, "Why?" And then in college, someone just randomly sends money, and I'm like, "Okay, that was nice."
Mm-hmm.
And then I understood, that's just what we did. We didn't always talk about it. And sometimes, they fold that little 20 up and, hand it to you, or, just grab your hand and give you a hug or a kiss and drop the money in there, and don't say anything, don't tell anybody. But they were doing it to several of us. And, I appreciated that, and I value that even to this day. And there were people who did that for us that I don't even know about. And so I feel like it is my duty, my responsibility to do the same, to pass it on and encourage, those that I may be helping to do the same for others as well. I remember, graduating and my dad asking me, or even people ask me, "Well, are you coming back home?" And I say, "Yes, I need to come back home so that I could give back to a community that's given so much to me." And friends who were moving away did not understand why you want to be back home. I felt obligated to help. I know that there's stuff here that needs to be done, and I feel like I can help with that, and I can encourage others to do the same thing. And so I'm sometimes tired at the end of the day, at the end of the week, running around with my stuff, and as well as doing, community service. But I think it's so important. Somebody has to do it. If not, then we would be in a terrible predicament. I may not have a lot of money to give like I want to. I've told my husband, I said, I just need to be rich so that I can give to people, not to buy a lot of stuff, but so that I can give freely to the church and make sure that this is done. Give freely to the schools so this can be built. Freely to people who need to be pulled just a little bit out of debt so that they can live, more comfortably. That's what I want to be able to do. And if I can't do it like that, the little $20 here or there, can help. But also, utilizing my talent and my time, toward worthy organizations and causes can also help.
Mm-hmm.
And I drag people along with me.
Well, we're so glad you came back and you stayed, and just hope that you keep taking good care of yourself. So
Yeah,
continue.
Yeah, and that's one of the big challenges. I think for a lot of African American women is that we don't care for our own spirits, our own souls sufficiently, because there is so much need, there is a demand, and I think in the face of all that, it becomes even more important to pay attention to your own spiritual health, your own emotional health, and to take time and give to yourself. I used to have a lot of trouble giving myself luxury things that I quote called luxuries. And then I said, well, wait, if I'm not caring for me, then I'm going to give in a way that almost poisons the well for the person I'm giving to. Okay, because my spirit is not open, my soul is not open.
Wow.
And I give more fully out of my fullness than out of my neediness.
Wow.
If that makes sense,
Yes.
And I've had to teach myself that. If the giving doesn't bless my soul, then it's probably not something I should be giving to.
Right.
Sometimes we do have to check our motives,
Yeah, we have to check our motives.
Sometimes it's, we're given to people, to please, from a spirit of people pleasing, which is really more about us, than the cause, and then there's a resentfulness and bitterness that can come in and all the things. I totally understand what you're saying.
Very good. Yes.
So, and to be able, there's a quote and I've forgotten who, if your no is to avoid tension, then, well, the quote, I messed up the quote, don't worry about it. But to say no, to say yes and really mean, I want to do this. This is a yes to you, and it's a full yes. Blesses the person as well as you. But if you're saying yes because you don't want them to think badly of you, you don't want them to think you don't care, you don't want them to talk about you, then that squeezes you. Yeah. And then you go home being pissed, to use a clinical term.
Right.
So I think it really is important to stop and think and feel and even ask for guidance about where do I put my energies, Lord? Where does the universe want me to be?
Right. Right.
Because I've found that people can make up all kind of needs for you.
Yes.
And they're really not things you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And you make a mess of it, or you end up just feeling miserable because it wasn't yours to do. So I think that's also important. And one of the reasons why at the beginning of the year, I try to figure out what's, maybe last year I gave a lot of time or a lot of support to this or that. Is that what I want to do in the coming year?
Right.
Is that my calling? Is that what I
Mhm.
want to be about? And I think that's important for us as African American women because we have this history of carrying everybody
Yes,
on
yes,
our
yes,
shoulders.
yes.
Yes.
And
It
and
felt
that brings us
broken
back to
down.
the topic, yeah. And that brings us back to the topic, of shining light on others who have for so long and for all of our lives and all of the lives for the life of this nation, have shown the light on others, and so that's why I love that we are doing this as Black women on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, talking about our local impact with women and men across the region, across the state, across the nation, across the globe. I think I may have said that there are people across the African continent, across Canada, the Caribbean, the country of Brazil, all
Yeah.
recognizing Black Philanthropy Month, because for so long there's an assumption that we're not givers, or we are we because we are being compared with individuals, or a community that had more access and more privilege. Our contributions are minimized, and that's why it's so important for us to stay in a space of positivity, of celebration, of
Mhm.
of enough. What I think a lot about, what one of the things you said, Dr. Graham, about teaching myself to be okay with having, like you said, quote unquote, the luxuries. And sometimes I think, I feel bad because, like, I know my grandmother, my great grandmother didn't have it. And then I think, what would my grandmother and my great grandmother want me to do right now? They would want me to have it. They would want me to do that thing that they couldn't do. That's why they sacrifice, and
That's
so,
right.
and so,
They,
yes,
they didn't sacrifice for you to have a smaller life. They
Right.
sacrificed for you to have a bigger life.
Yeah.
yes,
That's the shoulder thing. We move and expand,
Mhm.
not stay where we were. Because
yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't have access to Alcorn. They didn't have access to Spelman.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And there were so few blacks, getting PhDs.
mm,
My mother used to say to me, "I don't know what you do, but I'm glad you're doing it."
right,
I was a therapist. She didn't understand what
Yeah.
you people come and talk to you.
Yeah. 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 And
But
it's also important that, as you mentioned, one of you mentioned, to model. I used to think that I wasn't being humble, or I was bragging
mm,
by posting or sharing things, that I was doing. And a colleague said, you need to tell people so that it encourages other people. And you know how you do it for the kids and, the youngsters. And so I was like, okay. Okay,
mhm,
and I'm always still uncomfortable with it, but I feel like at this point in my life, I'm committed to sharing because as I share, I see that it's making an impact on other people, and it's encouraging them to be more active, to be more philanthropic, to be more community oriented, to want to be involved in things. And so sometimes we have to step outside of our comfort zone
yes,
so that we can do that. But we also need to be authentic when we do it. Like, you're doing it not for the accolades or the attention or the awards or the recognition. You're doing it because that satisfies your soul, that actually, satisfies a need that someone has or is
mhm,
beneficial to someone. But also, um, I have my husband sometimes say, they might just be using you. And I was talking to a colleague who feels that way about her spouse as well. And I said, we don't not see that. We can see that, but it doesn't bother us. That's part of our giving spirit. That's part of our gift, is to give to people. And I'm going to be blessed regardless of their intention. And so if it doesn't bother me, if it doesn't really sink me or something like that, I can do it and I'm okay. What they do with what I've gifted or given is totally up to them and their God, and they're going to have to be responsible for.
Yes.
But I can give and be completely good, sleep well at night, and feel good about it because, my soul is happy because I've done that. And they may be thinking that they've gotten over, but sometimes it's just glaring. It's very obvious what's happening, but it's something that I enjoy doing, and I'll just do it. Or I'll just, be a part of it until, I feel like it's not beneficial to me or anybody else. And I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with it.
And, I also think, and I agree with you, it doesn't, how the person receives your gift is on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not on you. And at the same time, I want to be responsible in my giving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's why I have to stay aware of, okay, what's your motivation? Why are you doing this just to look good?
Right.
Or is this something where you really think your giving can make a difference?
Yes. Y'all, I hate to cut us off. we could talk about this for a whole another hour, like they say, a whole nother. And we should definitely come back together and continue this conversation. And definitely want to encourage people who have heard you and have been inspired by you to be able to reach out and contact you, if that's okay. And so if you could each give your contact information, how we can reach you, how we can learn more about some of the amazing things you're doing, then I think we can keep this conversation going. And then after that, I'll bring Tiffany back in to wrap us up. This has been a great session. Thank you. Dr. Grant, you can start.
Okay.
How
all
we
right.
can contact
Well, I'm Alice Graham, the founder of Turning Points from the Soul. And I can be reached. My email is turningpointsfromthesoul.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I can be reached at Tracy, Tracy, at drtracydanielhardy.com. Tracy at drtracydanielhardy.com.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And I can be reached at alicia2709@gmail.com. I would be happy to continue this conversation and also learn from you what you've gained from the conversation, what you would like to see or hear more of, if you have any questions. And I think among our team, we definitely can get back to you if there's any way that we can support. So I think Tiffany's going to come on back in. And hey,
hello.
Wasn't it good?
Oh, yes, it was very good. So meaty. So meaty. So, Alicia, before we close out, I want to hear from you because, again, I was inspired based on, what you shared with me initially, right? That's how we really kind of landed here. So, if you were to kind of summarize the top 3 takeaways based on tonight's discussion with the audience, what do you want them to walk away with?
Oh, well, I think the first thing is that we are a people who give, and we give sometimes beyond our capacity to give. And so we really do need to step back and be intentional about taking care of ourselves. That, as we're planning our giving, that we also plan how we can hold space for ourselves so that we can put the mask on, as they say, before we administer oxygen to others. I heard that there's so many different ways to give beyond our cash donations, that we can explore how we can give differently and deeper and in a long lasting way. And the third thing I heard is that there's so many long established institutions within our community, the HBCU institution, the Greek institution, and of course the Black church, and or any church that a Black person shows up at, whether it's a Black church or any space, any spiritual community we show up in. We bring so much value, and we just need to remember that and celebrate ourselves, and help to nurture and mentor the same love of community, which that's all philanthropy is love of humanity. And so, yeah, just to nurture that same love, so that young people can learn can stand on our shoulders and continue to work.
I love that. I love that. In fact, so she mentioned something along those lines yesterday, Alicia, and I can't say it the same way that you said it, but you talked about being intentional to is being intentional as far as kind of looking ahead to the next generation, and building them and encouraging them in a way to where they they become the shoulders for the generation in front of that, and again just continue to kind of pass it on. And so again, just listening to you guys tonight, again, Dr. Graham, Dr. Hardy, you guys have done a wonderful job. Again, Alicia, so appreciate just your heart and wanting to bring awareness around this, and highlighting again, regular everyday people that are doing really, great things, on various scales, again, depending upon their time, but according to what they can do financially, according to, what the resources they have at hand. But it's really about the heart. Like you said, philanthropy is all about, the love of humanity and being intentional to use what you have as a way to impact the people that you share life with. So again, thank you, ladies, very much for giving us your time today. And we want to make sure that before we end out, that we give an invite to anybody that's listening in. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, if you would like to have an opportunity to come on and kind of share, a bit of your heart where Black philanthropy is concerned, again, it's all about being able to share, who has mentored you along the way. What are the things that you're doing now, to build the shoulders of the people that are coming before us, and then, again, creating and forming partnerships. So again, that we can kind of help grow our community and grow in a positive way, so that we are truly not just shining the lights on those who are giving, but that we individually, we're shining lights. And so wanting to take the time out, as Alicia said earlier, to truly celebrate the good that's happening here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And so these ladies, they're just a couple. These are just, these are just a few of the ladies that I've had the opportunity over the last 20 years to be able to connect to and serve together in some capacity. So we want as many people as possible to join and connect with this platform and allow us again to shine the lights on people that are doing great things. So with that, we can promise that we'll be back again. Looking forward to having other individuals come on and share their testimonies. We'll have some various posts going out via social media. And then, of course, we'll meet right here again over the next few months. So with that, I would like to say good evening and thank you again for tuning in.